things happening in other dimension well, today really. We have, and we are looking for venues for our, we're going to be doing like a get together. We're going to be doing an investigation. I will confirm the location very soon, hopefully, and we'll get that all booked up, and we will be running tickets for that event. I'm not sure how many, but if you do want to come along, meet myself and Ben and Lou, meet the team behind the scenes, meet Truths Collective, then head yourself. I will have all the updates there on the other dimension. So, yeah, that's one thing we got planned. Also, don't forget the show on Friday. This Friday, we've got the show going live. Yeah, a lot of things going on. So tonight we're going to be learning about the Norse, about Nordic, about the Vikings. We'll be talking about their sort of history, how it all begun for them. Be talking about the gods and the names behind the gods as well, and some of the stories that are associated with the gods. And we've got loads going. This is sort of like a part one. I literally just got through like the creation story, a bit of background from the Vikings. Hi Annette, how you doing? And sort of like the gods and different parts of like the Viking Norse mythology. I will do a part two in regards of famous Vikings, some of the stories behind the gods. Out to Ben, shout out to my brother from another mother. How you doing, Ben? So yeah, let's get into it. Now, when you look at Norse mythology, you have to look at it a little bit differently. It's not a bog standard black and white. There are very many grey areas. Now, what people don't know as well is there were two types of Vikings. There wasn't just the old Norse Vikings. A lot of the Vikings converted in the Middle Ages into what they called Christian Vikings. They had a certain name. Cannot remember it from the top of my head. Tried to research it, couldn't find it. But yeah, they converted in the middle, sort of like the Middle Ages to Christian Vikings. We'll get a bit more into that a bit later. Now, the word Norse, it just means north. That's what it means. It literally just means north. And the Christian Vikings used to call them heathens. Yeah, especially the Vikings that used to sort of study the old Norse ways. They were called heathens, which just basically meant people that lived in heaths. Now, the reason they called them that is because a lot of the early Christian Vikings, they were more recognised by the countries they're in. So they were given castles and towns and cities and villages, whereas the Old Norse, they weren't really recognised by, like, especially the English, and they were given like little shacks on heath, so they were called heathens. With the Viking mythology, you've got to look at it. At M's dying, self-inflicted, sweet. You're self-inflicted. That's all I've got to say on that one. I'll chat to you after. Viking mythology, they didn't want to change the world. They marveled at the world of what it is, you know, the way it was created, the brilliance behind the world. There was no sort of sin or, you know, there were obviously crimes that you can commit, but they were punished in different ways. I will get onto that in part two of the Norse stuff, the stuff about the blood eagle and stuff like that. But they just marveled at the world the way it was now. Who were Vikings? What were they? Well, they were explorers, they were raiders, conquerors, settlers, traders. And the four main countries that they actually originate from were Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Iceland. Now, they were out sort of exploring the world roughly between 793 and 1066. There are mentions of Vikings during the Battle of Hastings as well. And as they went as far like west as North America. They discovered America 500 years before Christopher Columbus did, and that's a true story. They spoke Old Norse, which you will see me attempt to speak when I talk about some of the gods tonight and some of the places. Not fluent in it, but I'll try. And they used to write in old runes. Different runes meant different parts of the alphabet. And, gods were given different runics and stuff like that. With the Norse mythology as well, it didn't just sort of stay within the old Norse ways. It sort of branched out to the early Germanic religions and stuff like Wotanism. Hi Jeanette, how you doing? Welcome along. So yeah, it's sort of like it influenced Wotanism in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and all the early Germanic religions were all sort of based around Norse mythology. But you'll find when I start going through this that the Norse is full of stories and complex characters and gods. So we'll get into that as we go along. Now, let's start off with the creation story. How did the world begin for the Vikings? Now, in the beginning, there was only two realms, right? You had Niflheim, which was the realm of mist and ice, right? And you had Muspelheim, which was the realm of fire. Now, between these two realms, there was a place called the Ginnungagap, right? And I hope I'm saying that right. If there's any Norse guys out there or anyone that speaks the language, please correct me. It's called the Ginnungagap, right? Now, this is the space between these two realms. Now, when the fire met the ice, it created a steam. This steam created two beings. You had Yrmir, or Ymir as he's known. He was the first Jotun to be created. And Udhymir, which was the first cow created. Now, I know that sounds weird. You will get this with the Norse mythology. There are some crazy stories. Now, these were the first two beings in existence for the Vikings. Obviously, being the first two beings founded, but born from this Ginnungagap steam, it was very boring. So basically, Ymir used to spend all his time drinking from Udhymir's milk from his udders. And he would get Udhymir, which is the cow, to lick a salt block. Now, this salt block, over time, when he was licking it, turned into the first Aesir. We'll get into the Aesir in a bit. His name was Buri, right? Now, Buri had a son called Bor, and who had three sons, which you'll know the first one. He had three sons called Odin, Vili, and Ve. These three brothers, they killed Ymir. But they used Ymir's body to create the universe, or the 9 worlds of Norse mythology, right? So that's the sort of founding story. That's the creation story. It's quite a brief overview of it, but that is the creation story of how it all began for the Norse. Now, these 9 worlds of the Viking, they're not referenced a lot, but they are referenced like enough for us to sort of know. What you'll find with Norse mythology as well is a lot of it wasn't written down. So it's a lot of Chinese whispers. It's a lot of reading runes and runics and old paintings and stuff like that. So it's all to do with that. So we've got the 9 worlds, right? I'm going to go through all 9 of them. So the first one is Asgard. Everyone knows where Asgard is. I'm going to try and make this as unboring as we possibly can, because we all know that history, we all used to sit there in history lessons and fall asleep. So Asgard, we all know Asgard because we've all watched Thor, we've all watched Marvel. Asgard is the dwelling place of the gods. Think of it like Mount Olympus for the Greeks. And that Asgard was then divided into 12 different realms, depending on where it housed gods and goddesses and stuff like that. But we'll get into that a bit later. So think of Asgard as Mount Olympus. It's where the gods lived. It's where Valhalla was, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to get into that in a bit. Another world within is Vanaheim. Now, Vanaheim is a location for the Vanir gods, associated with fertility, wisdom, and also the gods are able to see the future and predict what was coming in the future. Now, Vanaheim, is basically supposedly where the god Njora was raised, but there are some texts that sort of go against that. You have Jotunheim. Now, Jotunheim is sometimes referred to as Utgard, right? And so you hear it in a lot of like Viking sort of programs written as Utgard, but it's actually called Jotunheim, and it was where the Jotuns lived. So obviously, Ymir being the first Jotun, this is where he resided. Now, it's known also as the realm of giants. Now, all right, we're not going through the Lord of the Rings stuff here. I know it does sound like it, but bear with me. So it's the realm of the giants and the frost giants, and it's located quite near Asgard and Midgard, which we'll get to soon. It's considered to have no order. It's the realm of chaos, magic, and untamed wilderness, and it's ruled by its king, Primir. Okay, so that is Jotunheim. Next one, we got Niflheim. It's the world of mist. Now, sometimes it overlaps the notions of Niflheim, but it's not. It's the realm of primordial ice and cold. It has frozen rivers of Elvar and the well of Helgelgrimir, if I pronounce that right. The realm emanates from the Gunga Gap, right? So this was a world that was created out of the space in between the first creation. Now we've got Muspelheim. Now, it's a hot, bright, glowing land, Muspelheim, in the south, and it's guarded by Surt. Now, we'll get to Surt a bit later. He is the fire giant. According to tradition, the warm air from this region melted the ice opposite the region, Niflheim, this giving form to Ugulmir, the father of the evil giants. I didn't know that until I started researching it, but that was cool. Right, Alfheim. It's the home of light and dark elves. Now, it's overseen by the god Frey. Now, we'll get into Frey in a bit, because she plays a massive part in Norse mythology. Now, it's described as glorious, and all its inhabitants are both fair of the sun and dark as pitch black. So it's a realm of opposites, right? So now we've got Svartalfheim. Now, Svartalfheim is also called Makulfar. Yeah, you hear it referred to as Makulfar in a lot of them. And it's the realm of the dark elves or the dusky elves. So once again, we're hitting the elves again. It's also known as low fields or dark fields. Now, it's home of the dwarfs and home of the sons of the Valdi. Now, with Svartalfheim, it's whom Loki, he crafts his replacement hair for Sif. So the dwarves craft, basically the story is that Loki cut off Sif's hair for a laugh and then went to Svartalfheim to replace it. So he had it made by the dwarves, Svartalfheim. So that's the story behind that one. Because what you'll find with Norse mythology, when you talk about like different realms and stuff like that, there are a lot of sort of stories behind each one. Right, Nidavellir. So Nidavellir is home of the dwarves once again, or the black elves. It's a cavernous subterranean realm. Nidavellir was said to be located in the north, presumably a reference to its position of Yggdrasil on the world tree, which we'll get to soon. And the final one out of the 9 is you have Midgard, which is known as the Earth world. It's where we live. We call it Midgard. It's also called Mannerheim. It's made from the body of the first created being, the giant Ugulmir, also known as Whitemere. Okay? Now, all these worlds, all these 9 worlds, they're all sort of connected by the great ash tree, also known as Yggdrasil. Now, Yggdrasil runs through the center of the Viking universe. An eagle, this is a cool story. An eagle lives at the top of the tree, and a dragon lives at the bottom, right? And the dragon's called Nidhogg, right? And he chews on the roots. Now, there is a squirrel, supposedly, it runs up and down Yggdrasil, and called Ratatosk, and he passes messages in between the eagle and the dragon, but they're not nice messages. Basically, he's a shit stirrer, basically. Excuse my French, but yeah, he's a shit stirrer. So, the tree holds the universe together. So Yggdrasil is the main part, and you'll think of Yggdrasil as the tree of life. You'll find that in Judaism, in modern day Wiccan and pagan religions. Yggdrasil was the tree that holds the whole universe together, but it's also the source of wisdom. So the Aesir, which is one of the type of Nordic gods, they used to gather at the bottom of the tree for meetings, and also Erdbrenner or Erd's Well. And if you look at the Erd's Well, yes, Emma, what have I done wrong now? So Erd's Well is also associated with the 3 fates. Now, me and Ben have talked about that quite a lot, the 3 different fates, you know, past, present, future, Maven, Mudden, and Crone. It's like I said, it comes up in a lot of religions. Take a breath. So that was replaced under one of the roots of Yggdrasil. Now, under another root of Yggdrasil, you have what's called Misbrana, or the Murmur Well. Yeah, of course I will, no problem. You give me some ideas and I'll do that straight away for you. Not a problem. I feel quite, you know, hey, man's got skills. Anyway, you put me off now. So under another root, you have something called the Misbrana, which is the Murmur Well. Now, a lot of people will hear about this. They will know about this because the Murmur Well is where Odin gave up his eye for a drink in order to gain the well's knowledge. Now, we all know Odin is the one-eyed god. and this is where it happened. Also, Yggdrasil is is the tree where Odin hung himself in pursuit of knowledge as well. So Yggdrasil plays a massive part. Your artwork is perfect to cover my shoulder. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's lovely. Wow. Stop putting me off, woman, man. Jesus. So the Yggdrasil is the main sort of being for knowledge within the Norse world, right? So everything comes from Yggdrasil. Now, there are 12 realms of Asgard. Now, I know we've done the 9 realms here. There is 12 realms in Asgard. Now, bear with me because I couldn't find all 12 realms. There's not a lot of sort of writings about it. First one, so everyone knows about this, Valhalla, right? It's supposedly where the fallen Vikings go. I said, of course I'll get used to it. Of course I will. I don't mind. Where was I? Let me have a drink. Hair of the dog. Now, so everyone's heard of Valhalla. It's where the slain go. It's known as the Hall of the Slain Warriors. They live blissfully under the rule of Odin, because Odin controls Valhalla. The roof's made of shields. They feast on the boar, right? This is a cool story. They feast on a boar. This is called ceremony, and he regenerates. And they drink mead from the udder of the goat called Hydrum, and he regenerates as well. So basically, in Valhalla, the object is to go out, learn to fight, come back, eat a load of meat, drink a load of mead, and then it all regenerates and starts again. So that's the idea behind Valhalla. So they basically go out and fight each day. That all regenerates. Now, in Valhalla, it's said to contain 540 doors, right? And they fight alongside Odin and the giants or the Jotnar. Well, they fight against the Jotnar, which is sort of like controlled by Loki and Surt. Another realm inside Asgard is called Frost. Now, this plays a major part in, obviously, we're going to get to Ragnarok, but Bifrost plays a major part of that. It connects Asgard, the world of gods, to Midgard, which is the world of men. And it was written in a Prose Edda. Now, if anyone wants to learn about Viking Norse stuff, the Prose Edda is a really good place to go. I'm going to give you some books at the end of the show, which you can sort of read. The Prose Edda, that Snorri described it as a rainbow bridge. So Bifrost was a rainbow bridge between the gods and men. Also written in the Prose Edda is it was destroyed in the Battle of Ragnarok. Excuse me 1 second. And on the 5th day, God said, let there be light. And guess what? Look at that. Another drink. So, another realm inside Asgard, you have Folkvanger. Now, I really hope I'm pronouncing. I'm not destroying these names because I really am trying. Lumos, yeah. Where's my wand? Joe, what? Wouldn't it be cool if you could have a wand and sort of like, there you go. Folkvanger accepts half of the slain in battle. Now, this is where you can tell the difference between true Vikings and you can tell the difference between Ben. Don't make me come down there. This is how you can tell the difference between real Vikings, people who have studied Viking mythology, and people that sort of watch Loki and Vikings on Amazon. Because Folkvanger accepts half of the slain in battle. So Freya and the daughters the daughters live there, which is Gersemi and Hanos. They reside in the Hall of Sesamrimnir. It's decorated with nature to symbolise Freya's love for nature. Now, Freya accepts half of the slain soldiers. Oh dear, I've started it now. There's a domestic going on in the show. So Freya accepts half of the slain soldiers. So half go to Odin's at Valhalla, and the other half go to Folkvangir, and they go to fight for Frey. Now, another realm of Asgard, we have Himmelborg. Now, you might have heard this. I swear there was a famous tennis player called Himmelborg. I might be wrong, but I'm sure there was. Now, this is located on the border of Asgard. It's home to Heimdallr. Now, he watches over Midgard and watches over humanity. So he's almost like Joel Ems. I actually believe you will. I do believe. I reckon you could kick Ben's ass. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. So Heimdallr watches over Midgard and humanity. So it's almost like to the Norse. When we talk about on mine and Ben's show, we talk about the Watchers, the people that watch over the earth, people that sort of watch over humanity. This was the original guy, Heimdallr, in my religion, in Norse. He also protects Bifrost, which is the Rainbow Bridge. All right. So he also protects the Rainbow Bridge. And when the enemies from Muspelheim destroy Bifrost, Heimdallr will blow a horn, which is called the Yalla horn, to announce the beginning of Ragnarok. So he plays a massive part. Haribo, broomstick, and pizza. I'm writing that down. Get me a pen. Get me a pen. I need that information. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? So another realm in Asgard, we have Biskilnir. Oh God, I'm ruining these. Biskilnir. It's the largest building and most important realm in Asgard, right? Now, I know people seem to go, oh, Valhalla, 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 because it's mentioned so much in films like Thor and programs like Vikings. You've got the new one on Netflix that mentions Valhalla a lot. So they always go, oh, we're going to go and die on Valhalla. Biskilnir is the most important. It has 540 rooms. So it replicates what Valhalla has with the 504 doors. And this is the residence of where Thor and Sif live and all their many children. Now, Biskilnir is partially destroyed in the battle between Thor and the great serpent Jormungandr when Ragnarok comes. Right? Another page done. So, now I've sort of explained the realms, how Norse world was created, the different realms of Asgard. I will try and get the other realms of Asgard for you guys if that's what you want in part 2 of this. I want to get onto the Norse gods. Now, it's another way to tell the difference between a true Norse and somebody who's watched the programs, is you have to realize with the Norse gods, there's 2 types of Norse gods, right? There's 2 tribes in the Norse god world. So you have the Aesir and the Vanir. The Aesir have always been classed as the main gods in Norse, and they live in Asgard. So let's go through some of them as Aesir. So let me have a drink before we get there. Don't forget, guys, if you do have any questions, just hit me up in the chat. If you're watching this on catch up and you have any questions, just stick a comment below and I'll get to it ASAP. So let's go through some of the gods. Now, I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this bit. Starting off with the man himself, Odin. Now, Odin is linked with wisdom, healing, death, and royalty. He's the husband of the goddess Frigg, and in Germanic mythology was known as Woden or Wotan, i.e., that's why we get Norsenism in the early 1800s, early 900s in the Germanic city of Guido von List and Blavatsky. Ben says, easy way is to look at their haircuts. Vikings never shave the sides of their heads. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just to clarify for everyone out there that Odin had 2 eyes. He only sacrificed one later on, so he always had 2 eyes. Just putting it out there. Don't want to get castrated for that. As a Ben, I agree with that comment. I know they didn't used to shave the sides of their hair, but also the early Norse people, the early Norse they did use to shave the side of their head because they used to have to show their tattoos to show what and Norse they were wigs always right. Ems, stop. Odin had, before he was known as Odin, he had 2 eyes. Then he was known as Odin, he had 1 eye, because he sacrificed it at the world of Mimir. Okay, right. Second god. Everyone knows this one? Thor. I will give you my sources, don't you worry. No. Thor is famous for his hammer. I've got one here. I'll show you guys. It's Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. He's the hammer-wielding god associated with lightning, thunder, storms, and sacred groves and trees. And he is the protector of mankind. That's why put him up there on a pedestal because that he was a protector of mankind. A lot of people reenactment people there. Okay, all right. Well, look, I look pretty Viking, so I'm cool with that. What was I saying? Thor. So that's why Thor's put up on a pedestal, because he was the protector of mankind. It's easy for people to associate with him, and he is seen a lot as the god of war. No, he wasn't. He was the Norse equivalent to Zeus in Greek times, or Jupiter in Roman times. So, another god, you have Frigg, also known as Freya. She's the wife of Odin and mother of Balder. She was a promoter of marriage and of fertility. So sort of like, you know, your Aphrodite sort of thing. How you doing, Bill? Welcome along. Shouts out to the guys over in the US of the A in Virginia. Joking. Right, next god, we have Heimdall. I mentioned him before. He is the god who keeps watching the invaders over Bifrost. So he keeps watch over Bifrost. Hi, Yana. How you doing? You all right? He keeps watch for the invaders in Bifrost, and he blows the horn ready for Ragnarok from his dwelling in Heimenborg. He's attested as possessing foreknowledge, and he's basically the original seer, right? He's able to see what happens, which, see, when I was reading this and when I was sort of putting this together, I sort of thought to myself, like, that sort of contradicts each other, because if he's a seer and he can see what's coming, he should be able to blow the horn for Ragnarok before it happens. That's what I thought anyway. So, see, and also what you got to remember as well is Heimdall is also mistaken for the god of war as well within Norse mythology. But we're going to move on to the proper god of war now, Tyr. Now, Tyr was the Norse god of war and bloodshed. He was also renowned as a bringer of order and justice. She's too busy with the neighbour's dog. She's always too busy, Em. She's always too busy. He was best known for sacrificing his arm to Fenrir, which we'll get to Fenrir soon, so that the gods could trap the giant wolf. Yep. Are you using Wikipedia again? Taking up my bad habit. Mate, honestly, I have spent a week collaborating on this. Look, loads of it. Some of it's from memory, some of it's from the books. I'm going to throw some books out at the end as well for people, which you'll like. Another god is Bragi, the god of eloquence and poetry. So, a bit of the camp god, really. Patron of skalds, which was poets in Norse mythology. He was regarded as a son of Odin and Freya, and runes were carved into his tongue because he was able to speak fluently to sort of make humans do what he wants. That's why his tongue was covered in runes. Another goddess, you have Eden. Eden's goddess of spring and rejuvenation, and the wife of Bragi, the god of poetry. She was the keeper of the magic apples of immortality, which the god must eat to preserve their youth. So basically, modern day sort of, you know, what was it called? What was the... Basically, she held the key to the philosopher's stone. Thank you. I've been crazy doing research. Another god that we can talk about, another Aesir, right? And I shouldn't say god, another Aesir, is Balder, the god of light. He's also the god of joy and purity and the summer sun, and is the son of the god Odin and the goddess Frigg, because Odin was horny as hell. He had so many children. I think the only one that had more children than Odin was Thor. Thor was like, he was horny. Very horny. And now we get to another one that everyone else knows, Loki, the god of mischief, you know, the guy with the two horns. He was the father of Hela, also the father to Fenrir the wolf, and the world serpent known as Jörmungandr. He is also a shapeshifter, and he appeared as a salmon, a fly, an elderly woman called Pock. So there we go. And I was giving him a good ribbon for the other day with me. He caught me using Wikipedia for some fast info. I do it to everyone, don't worry. Like, me and Ben are renowned for calling it out, so don't worry about it. Now we move on to the second tribe of the Norse gods, known as the Vanir. They lived in Vanaheim, so we'll get to some of the famous ones of these guys. Now, the most famous of all the Vanir, because it's really hard to find information about the Vanir, because they wasn't spoken about a lot. They weren't sort of Chinese whispered as much as the Aesir. So you've got Njord. Now, Njord was the god of wind, fishing, and the hunt, but he's also associated with fertility, peace, and wealth. That's because he lived in Vanaheim. Even though he is Vanir, he lives in Asgard. This is the crazy thing. You're going to get well confused with this bit. So he lives in Asgard in a house named, it's called Northen, which means ship enclosure, right next to the sea. And what you'll find out, because I've only got 3 Vanir here, they all lived in Asgard. So, yeah, they all basically lived in Asgard with the Aesir. So it's quite near. But, yeah. So the next one, we've got Frey, which means river of peace. She was also the ruler of peace, fertility, rain, and sunshine. Originally, a Vanir was included in with the Aesir Gerd, daughter of the giant Gymir, and also his wife. So she was living in with the Aesir as well. And you have the other one, which is Freya. You'll hear a lot about Freya. A lot of the feminine females, Norse, used to pray a lot to Freya because she was the goddess of love and fertility. She's also associated with sex, lust, beauty, sorcery, gold, war, and death. And the name Freya means lady in Norse. So there's something for you there. Now, Freya and Frey were the children of Njord, who came to live in Asgard as hostages to ensure peace after the Aesir-Vanir war. Because there was a big clash between the two. And it went on for so many years. They couldn't come to a truce. So basically, Njord turned around and said, you can have my daughters. They'll go and live with you. They ended up becoming Aesir. But the way that Norse mythology works, you always take the tribe that your father was part of. So even though they were living with Aesir and they basically were Aesir, they were also classed as Vanir. Now, despite being hostages, Njord, Frey, and Freya are accepted by the Aesir. Freya and Odin even split the souls of the dead and the fallen and warriors. So, like I said to you, 50% go to Valhalla and 50% go and with Frey, right? In Folkvanger. And that's the way it was split. So that's how you can also tell if people have got their mythology mixed up or anything like that. Now, who goes where? This is the question I get a lot. Who goes where? So how do they decide this person's going here and this person's going here? This is the job of the Valkyries. You must have heard of the Valkyries. Now, the word Valkyrie just means chooser of the slain. The Valkyries would pick where the warriors would reside. And at this point, the warrior would become Einherjar, right? Which is basically Norse for Old Norse. When the Einherjar or the Einherjar are not preparing for Ragnarok, the Valkyrie would bear their meat. So give them, I'd be like, hey, have a drink. You're not doing anything. You're not busy. Have a drink on us. So, cheers. Dutch courage. Love it. Now, the Valkyries, they appeared as lovers of the fallen and other mortals. So when they used to appear as lovers, and they would describe the daughters of royalty. So when they would appear to people, they would show themselves as quite high up, you know. Sometimes accompanied by ravens and sometimes connected to swans or horses as well. So it could be seen as a I'm drinking, yeah. Air of the dog, Ems, air of the dogs. Do you know what I'm saying? Right, so we've done the creation story, we've done the realms, we've done the gods. Now we get into my fun part. This is my favorite part: the monsters in Norse mythology. Now, the Aesir and Vanir may be gods, but rarely behave well or honourably. It's the same with the monsters in Norse mythology. Just because they're monsters doesn't mean that they commit monstrous acts. So it doesn't mean that they're bad just because they're monsters. They can be good. So it's a bit of a it's sort of the same with what me and Ben preach on the show, you know, about demons, that they are good and bad. You know, it's good and bad every race in that. Now, aside the Vanir and the Aesir, the other main group are the Jotnar. Now, they live in Jotunheim. The Jotnar is often translated as giants, but it's misleading. The majority of the Jotnar are basically human-sized. Some Jotnar are beautiful, some are ugly, and the Aesir spend most of their time either fighting the Jotnar or marrying them. So, like I said, the Norse are very horny, very, very horny. Some of the notable Jotnars, we have Skadi. Skadi was the goddess associated with bow hunting, winter, and mountains. Skadi married Njora as part of the compensation provided by the gods for killing her father, Yazi. right? Another notable Jotnar would be Gerd. Now, Gerd was a mountain Jotun. He is said to be one of the most beautiful beings and daughter of a Bora and Wymir. See, there's a lot of interbreeding going on here, I'm telling you. Another famous Jotnar we've already mentioned is Surt. Surt was a Jotun famous for carrying a shiny, bright sword. It is foretold as being a major figure in Ragnarok. Now, in Ragnarok, he battles against Frey, and after the flames that he brings forth will actually engulf the earth with the battle with Frey. So basically, Armageddon. We'll get to that. Another famous, or another notable Jotnar is Wymir. He was the first one created. Remember, we talked about the steam, the Gingunga Gap steam. He was the first Jotun, also known as Orgelmir, the giant. He's the father of all giants, a man and female. A man who grew under his arm and his legs and produced a six-headed son. Guys were crazy. Now, here's where the story changes. Now, Loki may be classed as a Jotun, as his father was Jotun, and in Norse mythology, like I said, the problem is whoever your father belonged to is the tribe that you ran with. You vibed with your tribe, yeah, you vibed with your tribe. But even though Wymir was Loki's father, he was still classed as an Aesir. But it's highly debated, and it's changed depending on the belief of the Viking you're talking to. Me personally, I see Loki as an Aesir. I don't see him as a Jotun. But to me, it doesn't really matter. So it is. So, in addition to the Jotnar, the monsters, the giants, we also have what's called Jolsafar, or light elves. They live in Affelheim, which we spoke about at the beginning. You also have the opposites, which is the Dokkrafar, or the dark elves. They live in Surtelheim. And little is known about the light elves and the dark elves. It's just another name for the dwarves who live in Svartalheim. So it's sort of like there's not really much written about these sort of things. Now, the dwarves play a massive part in everything. It's said they have been made from the maggots that ate Wymir's dead flesh and live underground in darkness. I know, icky as hell, but there you go. They were master blacksmiths, and they experts in crafting. So the dwarves are responsible for creating some of the Aesir's most invaluable possessions. So the dwarves created Mudrunir, which is Thor's hammer, which is a major symbol for the Norse people. The dwarves also, they also created Gleipnir, which is the chains that bind Fenrir the wolf. And he also crafted Sif's hair after Loki shaved it off, which we spoke about in the story at the beginning of the show. So even though the dwarves are really useful to the Aesir, they don't really see them as equals. They see them as below them. So it's all like a power struggle. You know, you're below us and that. And then they're normally arguing with them. They're not arguing with them. They're asking them to build things. And if they're not building things, they're arguing with them. So, yeah, that's sort of what it is with the dwarves. So now we're going to talk about Ragnarok, because I mentioned Ragnarok quite a many times. Hey fella, hope you're all good, fella. Out to Barry, how you doing? Long time no see, mate. How you doing? Ragnarok, also known as Twilight of the Gods. It's supposed to be the end of the world when Ragnarok happens, but it's a common mistake. It's a common mistake that Ragnarok is the end of the world. In fact, it's just the end of the current world order. So it's not Armageddon. It's just a change in the way things are done. Although this does not make it any more pleasant to go through, according to the Volva or the Voluspa, the Volva is the Viking witch or the seeress that predicted Ragnarok. They also practiced magic. They were known as seers, which translate to bind, right? And the Voluspa was a poem in the Poetic Edda, which I spoke about, that describes how the world started and ends according to Norse mythology. I'm just okay for now, fella. Just my tummy is playing. Oh yeah, no. I see your status is very difficult, man. Now, to sort of highlight the way that the Volva works, the seeress works, here's some of the words that she writ about Ragnarok. She said, brothers will fight, bringing death to each other. Sons of sisters will split their kin bond. Hard times for men, rampant depravity, ages of axes, age of sword, shield split, wind age, wolf age, until the world falls into ruin. Now, during Ragnarok, the Aesir don't do much better. Odin is killed by Fenrir the wolf, who is Loki's son. The wolf Fenrir, along with Hel and the world serpent, are the child of Loki, and the giantess Ugbora. Fenrir is killed by Odin's son Vidar. Thor, Jumagand, and the Midgard serpent kill each other, and Surt kills Frey before destroying Midgard with fire. Basically, the end of the world. That's Ragnarok in one sense. However, the new world rises up, and after Ragnarok, there are some of the Aesir that survive. Now, Thor's, what am I doing? Thor's son Magni means mighty. Odin's son survives, which is Vidir, the god of vengeance. Vali, the son of Odin and giantess Ridna. And Honir, the warrior god of science spirituality, also survive. We also have Baldir, the god of light and purity. He survives. And Hob, aka Hodor, for all my Game of Thrones guys out there, Hodor. He's the blind god and the night of darkness. They return from hell and reunite with the others at Idavol, which is the field in Asgard that's untouched by battle. The human race also continues after Ragnarok with the two humans, Lif, which translate, hold the door, yeah, hold the door. But I love him. He's such a great character, Hodor. The human race also continues through two human lives. So you have Lif, who survived, which translates in Norse to life, and Lifrazir, which translates to life yearner. So Ragnarok doesn't actually symbolize the end of the world to us Northmen, us Norses. It actually symbolizes the start of a new regime, almost like a new prime minister coming in, a new start to the gods, a new start to the world itself. So it's not the end of the world. And supposedly Ragnarok carries on and on and on. It sort of goes over and goes over. So that's the main source and bundle of information that I've got for you guys. Now, where do you get information from about the Norse? Now, there are little to no records of what Viking believed or how they practiced their religion, but there are artifacts and references to Norse mythology. Some of the standout ones are, what is it? So you've got the Ireland, which is the statue which depicts Thor, and you've got the Valkyrie. I think it's called Valkyrie for Harby. It's the figurine which they say is the Valkyrie, but it's never been confirmed. They've never sort of like confirmed that it is. Also, there are references to gods and mythology on runestones that have been discovered. I remember one of our shows, Ben spoke about some of the runes being discovered in North America. Sagars is the best place. Yeah. It's Ben. Is that the one in Denmark? Because I've said to Ems about going to visit that place because I really want to go there. But she was saying she don't like hot holidays, and I'm like, I'm up for that. I don't like hot holidays. I would rather go skiing than be sitting around a pool. Let's put it that way. Oh look, I've got it written down here. There you go. The main source for Norse mythology is in the saga, the sagas, right? Which is the Eddas, are considered to be the most important for our understanding of Norse mythology. The word Edda is a mystery with theories ranging from poetry to creeda, meaning superstition. So Ben, I was well ahead of you. I already knew. You're just old news, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't even go there. Make myself look like a dick. But what I thought I'd do for all you guys, of course, we're still going. Of course, man. I've just packed already. Now, some of the books that I used for Icelandic Museum and the Denmark Museum, do you know what? I traced some of my history back, and it turns out that I'm 43% Danish. So this is why this religion renounces with me, and that's why I want to go and visit the homeland. So I am going to one day. Now, some of the books I use for tonight's show, because I'm going to be doing a part 2, we're going to be talking about famous Vikings, people like Ragnar Lothbrok, Ivan the Boneless, Eric the Red, Eric Magnusson. I'm going to go through all them sort of guys. We're going to talk about. Oh, was I not supposed to tell him? Oops. Yeah, we're not going at all. Promise. Um, Icelandic is the closest to the language you get to, buddy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you heard me completely desecrate most of the gods' names tonight. So, really and truly, what is that on there? There we go. Really and truly, like I will learn it one day. But yeah, I am going to do a part 2 to the Norse stuff. There's a lot of information to take in. Might want to watch this back and sort of go through it again. The main take from everything is, if you are going to look into Norse, first thing is find out if you have Norse. It doesn't really make sense. Well, no, it does. You can identify with the Norse way. You know what I mean? But you need to understand that being Norse is not about trying to improve the world or trying to improve yourself, even though improvement is seen as a good thing. You become a better warrior, you become a better husband, you become a better father, but you sort of accept what's around you and accept the marvel for what it is. And that's what being Norse is all about. And making up really weird stories and legends. Because I am going to, in part 2, like I said, I'm going to go through famous Vikings. I'm also going to talk about how they used to build their ships. You know, the Vikings were famous at building ships to travel across oceans. I'm also going to talk about their trading. They were very, very famous traders. I want to talk about the sacking of York and the where they went to Lindisfarne, the first raid where they went to Lindisfarne as well, and how they navigated from there to England. We're going to talk about Danelaw, which is all to do with the money that the English and the French used to pay the Vikings to fight for them and to keep law and order. I want to talk about the invasion of Paris with Rollo and how he became one of Frankie's top generals and was originally a Viking. Yeah, so there's going to be a few parts to this. So whenever Ben is sort of writing his book, I'm going to take over and hit you with some Norse. We're going north on you. Yeah. So some of the list of the books, some of the references that you can get through tonight, man, you can get a lot of this information off on Wikipedia, especially when it comes to the different gods. You can go and search up each god. It will tell you what they're about, how to pronounce their names and that. Wikipedia is great. Shouts out to Bill. We all know Wikipedia works. Like I said, the sagas, any of the poetic Eddas, they are, like I said, considered to be the most important for understanding Norse and the mythology behind it. Some of the books you can use, you have The Viking Spirit by Daniel McCoy. Very good book, got that upstairs. Brilliant book. Another one I've got upstairs that I use to write all this with is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. It's another really, really good book. And then my wish list, which I haven't actually picked up yet, you've got Myth and Religion of the North. That's by E.O.G. Turville. I want to get a copy of the Poetic Edda by Jackson. There's an updated sort of version that's been converted to English by Jackson Crawford, which is another great book to have. You have Norse Mythology, The Complete Guide by Johan Lindgren as well, another great book to have. If you are particularly interested in the gods and goddesses of the Norse, there is a book called Norse God and Goddesses by Ingvar Akelsson. It's another great one. And if you just want a sort of an overview of Norse and an overview of the way the Norse mythology is run, the gods, the goddesses, and so on and so forth, there's a book called The Vikings by Gwyn Jones, which is another great one. So there's some of the sources that I used tonight. Now, if you do, like I said, if you do have any questions about tonight's show, if you want to sort of ask me anything, whether you're watching this on catch up or if you want to send me a message, send it to me. If I don't know it, I will know someone that knows it. If I don't know someone that knows it, I'll be able to find it. Can I? Of course you can, Ems. Ems, you can borrow my stuff. That's fine. Not a problem. We don't have favourites here on the other dimension, though. That's my brother. For anyone that doesn't know my brother, he's one of the main guys at Truth Collective. Me and him run the team. And he always wears really bright clothes. He loves like yellow and orange. So shouts out to the orange hoodie. It's legendary. Is that orange or is that pink?
It's salmon.
Oh, it's salmon. Shouts out to Ems. It's not orange. It's salmon. She's gonna rob you for it. I don't think she worries about that. Yeah. So if you're interested, thanks a lot for taking. As Jeanette, yeah, I know it was a lot of information sort of piled in quite quickly. It's taken me over a year to sort of get into this sort of information. As Kathy, it's no problem. You can always watch it on catch up. Like I said, we're going to be doing a part 2, so hold tight for that one. Got to send shouts out to everyone's been locked in tonight. Out to Ems, out to Uncle Frodo, out to Ben. Shouts out to Jeanette, out to Kathy, out to Bill, and out to Barry as well. You guys have been absolutely amazing tonight. I feel like I've just like shouted information at you guys. But yeah, it's been fun. So I'm out of here. Happy Easter, one and all. And enjoy your Easter eggs. I'm about to go and eat my cream egg ones. Hey. But I'm out of here. So don't forget Friday's show, 7 till 9. Catch us here on The Other Dimension. I don't know if Lou's got any more divination planned. I think Ben will be back next Sunday with the Occult History and Science show. I think he's got another book to go through. So until then, guys, take care. Good night. Happy Easter. And I shall see you soon. Later.